Hello friends, welcome to my video. Today I'm going to talk about Dapper in C#. In this video, we'll learn what Dapper is, how to install and integrate in an application, how to perform CRUD operation using Dapper in C#, and many more. So before we get started, just a quick reminder to subscribe my channel, hit the red button and don't forget to click on the little bell icon. That way you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Okay, without any further delay, let's get started. What is Dapper ORM Framework? Dapper is a simple open source micro ORM framework for .NET application. It's created by Stack Overflow. It helps us in executing SQL queries and map their results to a strongly typed list or a list of dynamic objects. It is very popular for its speed and performance, comparable to raw ADO.NET code. Okay, before having a deep dive about Dapper, we first learn what is ORM and micro ORM. ORM stands for Object Relational Mapper, which is having full-fledged functionalities like object tracking, mapping to multiple nested classes, and quite a lot more. While Micro ORM stands for Micro Object Relational Mapper, that has less features but effective in handling complex queries that support multiple joins and some real long business logic. The main job of ORM is to transfer data stored in relational database tables into objects, let's say CSAP object, that are more commonly used in an application code. There are many other ORMs, some of them are Hibernate, Massive, Petapoco, BL Toolkit, which is also known as Business Logic Toolkit, Entity Framework. Why Dapper? Using Dapper, it is very easy to execute a SQL query against the database and get the result mapped to the CSAP domain class. So that's what we go for Dapper. Some of the key features of Dapper that are remarkable, which is speedy and high performance, fewer lines of code, easy handling of SQL query, ease of handling of a store procedure, bulk data operation, multiple result set handling. Here bulk data operation is done by Dapper.plus library, which is the third-party library. This library is not free at all, but it's the fastest way to perform the bulk operation. So keep in mind, whenever we are going ahead and implement the bulk data operation, we can opt Dapper.plus, which is nothing but the third-party library, and it's not free, keep in mind. But this is a very effective one to perform the bulk operation. How to use Dapper in C#? We just need to follow 5 steps in order to use Dapper in C#. So step number 1. Here, first time we need to install Dapper from NuGet package manager. So let's suppose you have created one project. It could be web application, Windows application, or console application. So in that project, go to the project solution, right click references, select manage NuGet package manager and search for Dapper. We would get many libraries, but we need to select Dapper as shown over here. It has 180 million downloads. You can imagine how popular it is. So we just need to install this Dapper library. As a step 2, we need to include the namespace named Dapper in class file. So for that, we'll write using Dapper as shown over here. In step 3, we need to create IDB connection object with a connection string. So we write something like this: public static IDB connection DB is equal to new SQL connection configuration manager.connection string, and here we are passing the app settings, right? SQL connection string dot connection string. So here basically what I am doing, I am creating an instance of the SQL connection and passing the SQL connection in constructor and assigning its instance to the IBDB connection object DB, right? Here IDB connection interface represents an open connection to data source implemented by .NET framework. So every database provider extends this interface for their database. For example, SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, SQLite, etc. Okay, now coming to the step number 4, we need to write SQL query and assign it to a variable. And that's why I wrote over here string str query is equal to select asterisk from imply. So basically this query I have written just for the demo purpose, and then we are going to store into this variable str query which of string data type, right? So that's what string str query is equal to select asterisk from imply. Step 5, that is last step. In this step we need to call query method with the help of instance of IDB connection object DB and pass the variable that contains the SQL query, and it's done, right? Okay, so that's what I wrote over here: list of imply list equal list of imply db.query imply str query. So basically in this statement what I am doing, I am calling db.query method and passing variable that has our query, and this will return the result set related to employee type, and then casting it to the list of employee and assigning into the employee list of employee, and we are done. It's so easy, isn't it? So that's how we use Dapper ORM in our C# program. Now let's see the demo of the Dapper in C# in Visual Studio. So here we are going to see the demo of Dapper in C#. So first of all, I am creating table over here. So if you see this statement, I have written create table DBO employee ID int identity 1 comma 1 not null name varchar 100 null email varchar 50. So basically I'm creating a table of 3 attributes where employee ID is of int, and this is the identity column, and name and email of the varchar, and it is having the 100 length, and for email it's a 50 length. Okay, and these two are the nullable, but this identity column, it is a not nullable. Okay, so now once the table has been created, what I'm doing, I am inserting multiple rows into a table via one insert statement, via one single insert statement, and that's what I have written: insert into DBO employee name comma email values, and this is the first row, Ravi at cde.com, second row, Akanksha at cde.com, James at cde.com. Whenever this statement is getting executed, SQL Server will be providing the employee ID automatically, right? So first record, it will give the employee ID is a 1, second record it will give 2, the third record it will give 3 for employee ID, right? Okay, let me query this and see how the data looks into the employee table. Let me select this and go and click execute button over here. Once I click execute, the result set got appear right in the results window. So if you see, the first record is having value employee ID 1, name Ravi, email Ravi at cde.com. Second record employee ID is having 2, name Akanksha, email Akanksha at cde.com. Third employee ID is having 3, James, and James at cde.com. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to fetch this employee data from Dapper in C#. Okay, first of all, I have created one console application, Dapper demo. Okay, and here what I need to do, I just need to go and right click. Okay, once I click right click, and then we need to go and select this manage NuGet package. Once I click manage NuGet package, then what we need to do, we need to search Dapper keyword, right? Okay, and once I click enter, okay, so if you see here, there are so many Dappers are there: Dapper.SQL Builder, Dapper Extension, Dapper.Fluent Mapper, Dapper.Contrib, right? So what we need to do, we need to select this one. This is the Dapper by Sam Saffron, Mark Gravel, Nick Graver, 184 million downloads. Imagine how popular it is, right? And this is the high performance micro ORM supporting SQL Server, MySQL, SQLite, SQL C, Firebird, etc. So we need to select this one, and then we need to install it. I have already installed, that's what it is showing as a tick mark over here, right? So this is the library, we need to install it. Okay, once you complete installation, you will be able to see into this dependency section at the package level. If you see this package, this library got listed into this package section. Okay, so now what I need to do, so first of all, before using Dapper, we need to include this namespace. That's what I have written using Dapper over here. So basically we are going to add this namespace in this program.cs file, and in this class file we are going to use that. So next step is, this is the class program under this namespace Dapper demo, right? And this is the IDB connection object that we are going to create, and how we are going to do that. So for that, I'm just going to create an instance of this SQL connection, and here what I'm doing, I am passing this connection string, and connection string I am taking from this app.config. If you notice, connection string key value, it is mentioned SQL Server connection string. If I go to the app config, so here I have stored this SQL Server connection string, and this is the connection strings over here. Okay, so now I have passed this connection string to the SQL connection constructor, so it will be creating an instance of this SQL connection, and that I am storing into this IDB connection interface object DB, okay, which is of the static. Okay, so now there is a main method which is an entry point of this application. Here what I'm doing, I am just writing this query, select asterisk from imply, and storing into this a string variable str query, right? So str query is going to have this query. Now what I'm doing, I'm just going to call this query method of db. db is nothing but the instance of this idb connection. So db.query, and here I'm just going to pass this str query. This str query is having our query, right? SQL query. So, and this is the type of imply. So basically result set will be mapped to the imply, and then what we are doing, once we get the result set, we are casting of the list of imply, and then we are assigning into this imply list of imply object, right? And then once this imply list is having all the data, then I'm going to iterate this and fetch the data from this list. So that's why I have written this for each loop. So here what I have done, imply in imply list console.writeLine imply id imply id name imply.name email imply.email, and then it is just going to print into this console window. You must be thinking what is there in imply class, right? So if you see here, imply class, I have created 3 attributes. First is the imply id of the int, name of a string data type, email of the string data type. These are the auto implemented properties under this imply class. And here only in this program.cs file, I am using this class name object, right? And we are iterating this for each loop of this imply list, and then I'm just printing imply id, imply.imply id, imply.name, imply.email, right? Okay, so now let me do one thing. Let me execute this and see the output. Let me go and click this. Okay, so output got appear into this console window. If you see imply id 1, name Ravi, email ravi@cd.com, imply id 2, name Akanksha, email akanksha@cd.com, imply id 3, name James, email james@cd.com. So these 3 information was there into this implied table. We have fetched those things with the help of Dapper, and then we are populating into this console window after iterating those values with the help of for each loop, right? And then got printed these inputs into this console window, and that's how we use Dapper in C#. CRUD operations using Dapper in C#. So here we are going to see the insert operation, update operation, delete operation, how we perform with the help of Dapper. Okay, so if you see this insert statement, I have written one examples over here. So first of all, we need to create an instance of this SQL connection, and then we need to pass this SQL connection string over there as a parameter of this constructor, and then we will be getting an instance that we are storing into this IDB connection object named DB. And then there is a main method, right? In this main method, what I need to do, I need to write this insert statement. If you see, insert into imply name, email, values rahul@test.com. So basically in this, I'm just going to put an entry into this implied table via this insert statement. So this insert statement I have written that we are storing into this SQL variable. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to call this execute method, db.execute, and here we are going to pass this SQL that basically has this insert statement. Okay, so db.execute SQL, it will return how many rows got affected in database. Okay, and that we are going to receive it, and then we are storing into this variable rows affected, and this rows affected I'm just going to print it into this console window, and that's what I have written, console.writeLine rows affected via insert statement, and here I have written this rows affected, so it will print into this console window. So that's how we perform this insert operation with the help of Dapper in C#. Okay, now come to the update operation. In update statement, we need to do the same thing. What we need to do, we need to just write this update statement over here, and so for that I have written update implies set email demo test@test.com where name is equal to Rahul. Okay, so I'm searching the record into this database where name is equal to Rahul. Go and change this email, and that's what I have written this update statement, right? Now this update statement we are storing into this variable SQL, and again I'm just going to call this db.execute method and passing this SQL variable over there that has update statement. Okay, so this This method is going to return this how many rows got affected into database while doing the update statement. Okay, so rows affected that we are receiving, that we are storing into this variable, and then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to print this into this console window. Rows affected via update statement, rows affected. Okay, now come to the delete operation. In delete statement, again we need to write this delete statement over here, and that's what I have written, var SQL is equal to delete from imply, where email is equal to demo test at the test.com. So in imply table it will find this email and then delete it. So basically this delete statement I am storing into this variable SQL, and then I'm just going to call this execute method, right? So that's what I have written, db.execute, and here I'm passing this SQL statement, right, that basically this variable contains. So db.execute and SQL, so it will again return how many rows got affected as a part of delete statement. Okay, so this information I'm storing into this variable rows affected, and then I'm printing these things into this console window. Rows affected via delete statement, rows affected, right? Okay, let's switch to the Visual Studio and see all these things in action. Here we are on Visual Studio. Here we are going to see the demo of the CRUD operation in C# using Dapper. So for that, what I have done, I have created one console application, Dapper demo. And here I have downloaded and installed this Dapper library. Once this installation is done, what I am doing, I am including this Dapper namespace in program.cs file, and that's what I have written using Dapper. There is a class program under this namespace Dapper demo. Here I have created an instance of this IDB connection. For that, I have written public static IDB connection db is equal to new SQL connection, and here I am going to pass this SQL connection string. This SQL server connection string I am fetching from the app.config file, and here if you see add name is equal to SQL server connection string, this is the connection string that I am going to fetch it with the help of the configuration manager.connection string. Okay, now this instance got created and we are storing into this db variable of the IDB connection. Okay, now there is a main method which is an entry point of this application. So here I'm just printing console.writeline CRUD operation in C# using Dapper, because I'm just going to give you demo how this CRUD operation is going to happen with the help of Dapper. So here if you see, I'm writing the read operation. Okay, because I just want to see the correct status of the implied class. So for that, what I'm going to do, I have written this query select asterisk from imply, and then I'm storing this select statement into this str query variable of a string type. Okay, and then I'm just calling this query method of db.query of implied type, and here I'm passing this str query that has our query select asterisk from imply, and then it will return the result set. I'm casting to the list of imply and then storing into this implied list variable of list of imply, right? Now I'm iterating with the help of for each loop and then printing imply id, name and email into this console window. So it will show the exact status currently what imply is having the data. Okay, now I'm going to perform this insert operation. So in this imply table, I'm just going to insert one new imply, and that's what I have written this insert statement over here. Insert into imply name, email, values Rahul and rahul@test.com. So name, it is Rahul, and email is nothing but the rahul@test.com. And then this statement I'm storing into this str query variable, and then I'm calling this execute method. So db.execute str query. Here I'm passing this str query that has our insert statement. So it will return how many rows affected with the help of insert operation, right? Because I'm just executing this insert statement with the help of execute method over here. So it will return the how many rows got affected that I'm storing into this rows affected variable, and then I'm printing into this console window rows affected via insert statement, and here I'm writing a rows affected. So it will print this statement into this console window. Now I'm just going to fetch how many records currently we have in the implied table, and that's what I have written. Now records are, and then again I'm firing this select asterisk from imply query with the help of query method, and then I'm just iterating with the help of for each loop group and then printing imply id, name and email. So whatever the implied that I have created, it will be printing along with the existing record. Okay, and then we would be able to see into this console window. Okay, now coming to the update operation. So here what we are doing, I have written this update statement over here. So what I'm doing over here, I'm finding name is equal to Rahul. If name is found, then I'm setting this email demo test@test.com, and then I'm updating this imply. So update imply set email where name is equal to Rahul. So this statement I have stored into this str query variable, and then I'm calling to the execute method. So db.execute str query. So it will return how many rows got affected in database with the help of update statement, right? So I'm just going to print into this console window rows affected via update statement, and here is the rows affected variable. Okay, so it will print this statement into this console window. I just want to see, okay, if rows got updated, I just want to see the correct status, right? So for that, I'm just going to fetch again all the imply from this table, and then I'm iterating and printing into this console window. Okay, now come to the delete operation. So again, delete operation, what we are going to do, I'm just going to write this delete statement over here. So delete from imply where email is equal to demo test@test.com. So here what I have done, I have written this delete statement over here. Delete from imply where email is equal to demo test@test.com, and storing into this variable str query, and then calling to the execute method. This execute method I'm passing this str query that has this delete statement. Then it will return how many rows got affected as a part of delete operation. Okay, and then I'm just going to print rows affected via delete statement, and how many rows got affected, it will go and get printed. Okay, now I'm again fetching all the records from the implied table and iterating it and printing into this console window. So as a part of the demo, it will be easier for correlate, right? Okay, let me execute this and see the output. Okay, so output got appear into this console window. If you see the CRUD operation in C Sharp using Dapper, this statement got printed, and this imply 1, 2, 3 got printed. That is the existing status of the imply ID before insert, update, or delete statement. So this is the third three imply are existing into this imply table, and those are imply ID 1, 2, 3, name Ravi, name Akanksha, name James, email ravi@cd.com, email akanksha@cd.com, email james@cd.com. Here I have performed this insert statement. So it just gave me how many rows got affected via this insert statement. Rows affected via insert statement 1. So now records are 1, 2, 3, 4. So this fourth record that we have inserted, right? So imply ID 4, name Rahul, email rahul@test.com got added into this imply. That's what it is getting printed over here, right? Now, if you see this update statement, here rows affected via update statement 1. So basically, when I perform this update operation with the help of Dapper, it just went ahead and implement this update statement into database, right? And this got affected. So this particular row got affected. So how many rows got affected? 1. And that's what it is printing 1 over here. So now records are, if you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, because I have just updated. So what I have updated, so if you see here, if you see here, name Rahul, email is equal to rahul@test.com, right? And here I have changed this email ID for this name Rahul, and that's what the correct, now the current email is email demo test@test.com. So it got changed from rahul@test.com to demo test@test.com, right? So that's what this update statement happened successfully. Now come to the delete statement. Here I have executed the delete statement with the help of Dapper in C Sharp. Okay, so after delete statement execution, it just returned this rows affected, and that's what I'm just printing into this console window. Rows affected via delete statement 1. Now records are, if you see this imply ID 1, 2, 3, only 3 imply got printed. The fourth one, because I have deleted this record, so it is not going to get printed, and that's what it not printed over here, right? So now you have seen how we can fetch the data from the data, we can insert the data into the database, how we can update, how we can delete, right? So you know how to do this CRUD operation with the help of Dapper in C Sharp, right? How to call a store procedure using Dapper in C Sharp. So there are two ways by which we can call a store procedure using Dapper in C#. Number one is command type.text. Number two is command type.store procedure. If you see this example shown over here for command type.text, what I'm doing over here, I'm first importing this namespace, and that's what I have written using Dapper. And then I'm creating an instance of this IDB connection with the help of connection string, right? So that's what I have written, public static IDB connection DB is equal to new SQL connection, and then I'm fetching this connection string from app.config file, and that's what I have written, configuration manager.connection string, SQL server connection string dot connection string, right? And there is a main method which is an entry point of this application. Here what I'm doing, I'm writing this exe command with sp name and then parameter, and then I'm storing this into this variable named SQL of a string data type. Okay, now I have provided this parameter values, so that's what I have written, where parameter values new imply id is equal to 1, and then I'm just going to call this query method, and in this query method I'm passing this SQL variable and the parameter values, right? And then I'm just going to call toList method. So this will give us the result set that we are storing into this result variable, and then I'm just going to iterate with the help of for each loop over here, and that's what I have written, for each where result in results, and then I'm printing imply result.imply id, result.name, result.email, right? So it will go and get printed into this console window. Okay, if you notice this statement, where result is equal to db.query SQL parameter.toList, right? So basically we have this dynamic type that we are storing into this result, even though we can call the generic type imply if it is required. So for that, what we need to do, we need to write that db.query imply of type, and then we need to pass this SQL parameter values.toList, so it will give the implied type, right? And then we can store into the results, or we can mention that imply list, and then we can store into this result, and then we can iterate imply and print into this console window. So either way, whether we can go with the generic type imply or we can with the help of dynamic type, both way we can call the store procedure, right? The second way is we need to mention command type.store procedure. So for that, if you see this main method, I have mentioned this procedure name usp get imply by id, and then parameter values. Now I have called this db query procedure name. This is the procedure name, and then parameter values. And here if you see this highlighted underline with the yellow color, right? Command type.store procedure. So basically I am telling to SQL Server compiler that this is query you need to execute for this store procedure, and that's what we have mentioned, this command type colon command type dot store procedure. Okay, so that is the second way to call the store procedure. And then once we get the results, we are storing into this results variable, and then I'm iterating one by one and then printing imply id, name and email into this console window, right? So that's how we are going to call the store procedure using Dapper in C#. Okay, let's see all these things in action in Visual Studio. So here we are going to see the demo of how to call a store procedure using Dapper in C#. So first of all, we see the implied table data. If you see this implies table data, there are three implies listed into this implied table, where imply id 1, name Ravi, email ravi@cd.com, imply id 2, akanksha@cd.com, imply id 3, james@cd.com. So this imply has re-record. Now I have created one store procedure. So this is my store procedure, usp get imply by id. So here imply id I'm just passing as a parameter to this store procedure, and then I have written this as select statement, select imply id, name, email from dbo imply, where imply id is equal to this imply id. This is nothing but the parameter that we have passed into this store procedure. So it will match this imply id into this imply table, and then it will just fetch this data for us, right? This store procedure I'm going to call using Dapper in C#. So this is my Visual Studio solution. Okay, so here I have created one Dapper demo project that is nothing but the console application, and then I have downloaded this Dapper with the help of NuGet package manager and install it over here. Okay, so now Dapper library I have already installed, and then I'm using this Dapper namespace into this program.cs file so that I can use its method, classes, everything under this namespace, right? Now there is a class program under this namespace Dapper demo. Here I have created an instance of this IDB connection. So that's what I have written: public static IDB connection DB is equal to new SQL connection, and this connection string I'm taking from this app.config file, right? This is the connection string. So here I am how I'm going to fetch this connection string from app.config. For that I have used this configuration manager.connection string, and here I'm passing this key value dot connection string, right? So it will give us the connection string. It will give the SQL connection instance that we are storing into this IDB connection under this DB object name, right? Okay, now there is a main method. In main method, what I'm doing, I'm just going to write this statement: calling a store procedure using Dapper in C# command type dot text way. As we just now discussed that there are two ways by which we can call a store procedure. So that is the first way, command type dot text way. Okay, so now here in this way, how we are going to write it? So first we need to mention this exe command with sp name, right? So that's what exe usp get imply by id and then at the rate imply id, and then we are storing into the SQL variable of the string type. Okay, and next statement, what I'm doing, I'm just defining this parameter values. So where parameter values is equal to new imply id is equal to 1. Now I'm going to call this db.query method. Here I'm passing this SQL that contains this exe command with sp mentioning the parameter, right? And then I'm just passing this parameter values that has this imply id is equal to 1, and then dot to list. So this will return the dynamic results that we are storing into this results variable, right? Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to iterate these results with the help of for each loop and then printing imply id, name and email, right, into this console window. And if you see this line number 23 where I have written where results is equal to db.query SQL parameter values dot to list, right? So that is the dynamic type it will be having. But if we are interested for the generic type, let's say imply, then how we are going to write? We need to write where result is equal to db.query imply type, and then we need to pass the SQL parameter values and then call the to list method. Okay, so anyway, either way we can call it and get the data. And once the data we have received, we need to iterate those things and then we need to print into this console window over here. Okay, now that is this first way. The second way, that is the command type dot store procedure way, right? So here what I am going to do, I'm just going to write this procedure name only, usp get imply by id, and then parameter values imply id is equal to 1. And if you see this query method, I have passed three parameter. Number one is the procedure, this is the procedure name, and then parameter values. And here I have mentioned command type. What is the command type? Command type colon command type dot store procedure. Here I am just giving the instruction to compiler. Okay, I'm going to call this query method in which I need to execute this store procedure, and that's what I have mentioned this command type dot store procedure way, right? And it will give us the results that we are iterating with the help of for each, and then I'm printing this imply id, name and email into this console window. Okay, so you have seen the two way, command type dot text way, where we have not mentioned this command type in a stored procedure, right? But in the second way, I have mentioned this command type dot stored procedure inside this query method. Okay, so that's the difference. That's the way how we are going to call this stored procedure. Okay, let me execute this. Okay, so output got appear into this console window. If you see the calling a store procedure using Dapper in C# command type dot text way, so it just went ahead and fetched the data, I mean with the help of a store procedure, right? Using Dapper in C# using this command type dot text way. Okay, output got appear into this console window. So if you see the calling a store procedure using Dapper in C# command type dot text way, it just fetched this imply id, name and email. And similarly, these data got fetched when we are going ahead with this command type dot store procedure way. So either way, we can call a store procedure using Dapper in C#. Selecting scalar values using Dapper in C#. So there are four methods by which we can select the scalar value using Dapper in C#. The first method is execute scalar. It returns a dynamic type. Execute scalar t returns an instance of type based on the type t specified. Execute scalar async. So basically the async version method. It returns a dynamic type asynchronously. Execute scalar async t returns an instance of type based on the type t specified asynchronously. Okay, let's see the example to understand it better. So if you see this example, public static IDB connection DB is equal to new SQL connection configuration manager dot connection string SQL server connection string dot connection string. So basically I am creating an instance. Of this IDB connection. Okay, and storing this variable name DB. And then there is a main method. Main method, I have written this select count one from employee. Basically, I have written one select statement and storing into this SQL variable. Okay, db.execute scalar, and here I am passing this SQL variable that contains this select count one from employee statement. So it will give the count, right? So that count I am just going to store into this employee count variable, and then I'm printing total number of employee count console.read line. And then if you see the output over here, total number of employee 3 got printed into this console window. So that's how we use execute scalar method for getting the scalar values using Dapper in C#. Okay, selecting single row using Dapper in C#. So here we are going to see how to select single row using Dapper in C#. So there are four important methods: query single t, query first or default, query first or default. So there are some differences. If you see, this query single returns a dynamic type. Note, when the query returns 0 or more than one element, it throws invalid operation exception. Same goes with this query string t also. It will throw, if it returns 0 or more than one element, it also throws this error, invalid operation exception, right? Query first or default returns the first of one or more rows as a dynamic type, or null if no results. So there is no invalid operation exceptions over here. It is just going to return null if there is no results. Okay. Query first or default t returns the first of one or more rows as an instance of the type based on the type t specified, or null if no results are returned. Let's see the example shown over here to understand it better. If you see this example, I have created an instance of this IDB connection, and that's what I have written: public static IDB connection DB is equal to new SQL connection, and I'm fetching this connection string from configuration file, and that's what I have used this configuration manager dot connection string SQL server connection string and dot connection string, right? So basically I have created an instance of this IDB connection named DB. Okay, now there is a main method which is an entry point of this application. Here I have written this select statement, select asterisk from employee where employee ID is equal to 1, right? And then I have used this db.query single, and I have passed this SQL variable over here that contains our this select statement. So it will give us this obj employee, that is the dynamic type. Okay, so if we want to go ahead with this query first or default, we can do so. So for that we need to use this db.query first or default SQL statement, right? And then what I'm doing, I'm just going to print this statement over here into this console window: employee ID, name and email, right? And if you see this output, employee ID 1, name Ravi, email ravi@cd.com got fetched, because I have fetched employee ID 1, right? And employee ID 1 is having these details that got fetched with the help of query string, query single. So whenever we are pretty much sure that it is just going to return single record, we can go ahead with this query single. If you are not confident that this table, this things is going to have one value, we can go ahead and implement this query first or default method that basically returns first of one or more rows as a dynamic type, or null if no results. Or we can either go for this query first or default also. That's how we use selecting a single row using Dapper in C#. Handling multiple result set using Dapper in C#. So here we are going to see how to handle multiple result set using Dapper in C Sharp. So before that, we see this store procedure, USP get imply project details. Okay, how it returns the data. So if you see this store procedure name, USP underscore get imply project details, it is just going to accept this employee ID as an input parameter, and then it is returning two result set. First result set, it is coming from the employee table, where I have written select asterisk from employee, where employee ID is equal to employee ID, and then it is selecting this project details, select asterisk from project. So two result set are getting returned from this store procedure. Okay, now let's see these examples. The public static IDB connection DB is equal to new SQL connection configuration manager dot connection string SQL connection string dot connection string. So here basically I am creating an IDB connection instance with the help of SQL connection, and here I'm passing this connection string that we are fetching from configuration file. Okay, now there is a main method here. First of all, I have mentioned this procedure name. So this is the procedure USP underscore get imply project details, and I'm storing into this procedure variable. And then I have mentioned this parameter values, where I have written new employee ID is equal to 1, right? So if you see this statement, right, the third statement, where I have mentioned db.query multiple. So basically we need to call this query multiple method. Inside that we need to pass this procedure name, parameter values, and we need to tell, okay, this is the command type dot store procedure, right? And once the data is just going to get returned, it will be storing these results set into this result variable. And now the first result set we are going to fetch with the help of read method, right? So results dot read, and this is of implied type. So that's what this first result set is just going to return obj imply, and the next one we need to just write results dot read. So this is the second result set. Then we are storing into this project variable, and then I'm iterating this obj imply list, and then I'm printing this employee ID, name, and email into this console window. Similarly, for projects, I'm just iterating with the help of for each, and then I'm printing this project information, project ID, project name, and project duration in months. And if you see this output, this employee details got printed, employee ID, name, Ravi, email, Ravi @CD, right? And then this project details got printed, project ID 1, project name 1, project duration 5, project ID 2, project name 2, project duration month 7. So if you see, so query multiple, we are going to call it so that it will return the multiple result set, and that we are storing into this results variable. And then we need to use this read method. The first read method will return the employee related information. The second read method we are going to use that is going to return the project related information. And once we store this employee information and project information into the variable, then I'm iterating and printing into this console window, and that's what you are able to see this output over here. So that's how we handle the multiple result set using Dapper in C Sharp. Okay, let's see all these things in action in Visual Studio. So here we are going to see the demo of how to select single row using Dapper in C Sharp, how to select values using Dapper in C Sharp, and finally we will be seeing how to handle multiple result set using Dapper in C Sharp. Okay, if you see this employee table, we have data, employee ID, name, email, 1, 2, 3, Ravi, Akanksha, James, right? 3 values are there into this employee table. 3 rows are there under this employee table. Okay, and I have created project table also. If I write over here, select asterisk from project, okay, and I'm just going to execute these two statements. If you see here, this project ID, project name, and project duration months are there, right? 1, 2, project name 1, project name 2, project duration month 5 and 7, right? So basically these two statements are there. Okay, so here we are going to see how to select single row using Dapper in C Sharp. So for that, I have written this select statement, select asterisk from employee, where employee ID is equal to 1. And then I am calling this query single method, and I'm passing this SQL variable to it that contains our select statement. So this query single will returns the dynamic type to us. Okay. and then that we are storing into this obj imply, and then I'm printing imply id, obj imply dot imply id, name obj imply dot name, email obj imply dot email. So this statement basically it is just going to print this imply id, name and email to the console window. That's how we select the single row using Dapper in C# with the help of query single method. Okay, now come to the selecting scalar value using Dapper in C#. For that, we are going to use this execute scalar method. So here I have written SQL statement select count1 from imply, and then I'm storing into the SQL variable, and then I'm calling to execute scalar method and passing the SQL variable to it. So it will give us the imply count, and then I'm printing total number of implies, imply count, so it will get printed into this console window. So that's how we use this execute scalar method for selecting the scalar values using Dapper in C#. Now coming to the handling multiple result set using Dapper in C#. So for that, if you see, I have created one store procedure, USP get imply project details, that basically returns the two results set. Select asterisk from imply where imply id is equal to imply id, and select asterisk from project. Basically two results set, this store procedure is going to get returned. Okay, so how we are going to handle it in Dapper, right? Okay, so let's see how to handle this multiple result set using Dapper in C#. So first of all, I just mentioned this procedure name, USP get imply project details, parameter values is equal to new, imply id is equal to 1, and then I'm calling this query multiple method. In that method, I'm passing this procedure name, parameter values, and then I'm saying this is the command type dot store procedure. So it will give us the result set that we are storing into this result variable, and then we need to use this read method, and we are calling this read method with the typed imply. So it will give us the result that we are storing into this obj imply, and then project details, again we need to use this read method, results.read, it will returns details of the project, and that's what we are storing into this project variable. And then what we are doing in the next statement, I'm just going to print this imply details. So for that I have written this for each loop, and then I'm iterating this obj imply list, and then I'm printing imply id, name and email. Similarly, I am fetching this project details with the help of for each loop, and then I'm printing into this project id, project name, project duration into console window. Okay, let me execute this and see the output. Okay, so output got appear into this console window. If you see selecting single row using Dapper in C#, this single row got printed imply id 1, name Ravi, email ravi@cde.com. Similarly, selecting scalar value using Dapper in C#, it got printed total number of employees equal to 3, right? Now coming to the handle multiple result set using Dapper in C#. We have seen how we are going to call a store procedure, right? That returns the multiple result set. So for that we have used query multiple method, right? And we have passed this procedure name, parameter values, and saying that this is the command type dot store procedure. So that will return the result set, and that result set we have stored into the two variables. For fetching the result set, I have used this one, right? Results dot read imply, and then for next result set we have used this results dot read. So all these imply details we have stored into this obj imply, and project details we have stored into this project variable, and I have iterated with the help of for each loop, and that's what, if you see this imply details got printed. Similarly, project details got printed, project id 1 2, project name 1 2, project duration in months 5 7 got printed, right? So that's how we are going to handle this multiple result set using Dapper in C#. Now that brings me to end of my session. To sum up, in this video we show what Dapper ORM framework is, how to install and integrate with the C# application. Then we learned how to perform CRUD operation using Dapper in C#. After that we saw how to call a store procedure, how to select single row, how to select scalar values, and finally we talked about how to handle multiple result set using Dapper in C#. I hope now you are equipped with Dapper knowledge, how to install and perform various DB operations in C# with Dapper. That's all for this video, guys. If you like this video, hit the like button, share it with your friends and colleagues, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done already. Thanks for watching. See you next video.